So a tactical step forward or a strategic reset? Joining me on this India First special broadcast is Ambassador Mohan Kumar, Professor of Diplomatic Practice at the Jindal School of International Affairs and former Ambassador to France. Professor Shrikant Kondapalli is Professor of Chinese Studies at the prestigious Jawaharlal Nehru University. Feng Yailai is a correspondent of China Global Television Network, joins me on the show. And in a moment, we'll also be joined by Professor Jacob. Okay, he joins us, Associate Professor International Relations and Governance at the Shiv Nadar University. Let me begin by asking our Chinese guest, Feng Yailai, how is Beijing, Ms. Yailai, reacting to the Politburo member and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi's visit to India, his extending an invitation to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and the interactions he's had so far with the NSA and the External Affairs Minister, Dr. Jaishankar?
Okay, so China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi is on his visit to India, which is his first since 2022. And today, the 24th round of talks between the special representatives of China and India on the boundary question marks an important milestone in Sino-Indian relations. And the talks were comprehensive, in-depth, and productive, according to Chinese Foreign Ministry. And the event focused on both the boundary issue and broader bilateral relations, as reported. So Foreign Minister Wang Yi emphasized that the important consensus reached by President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi during their meeting in Kazan has provided clear direction and momentum for improving the bilateral relations and properly handling the boundary issue. And this year has seen steady progress in bilateral relations and sustained stability along the border, as the two neighboring countries and major developing nations, China and India, share extensive common interests and should trust and support each other. And this is a proper way for two emerging powers to interact. And Wang Yi also highlighted the significance of Prime Minister Modi's upcoming visit to China for the SCO Tianjin summit. And China highly values, he said, the visit and expects India to contribute positively to the success of the summit. And National Security Advisor Doval also echoed these sentiments. He described the Kazan meeting as a turning point in Sino-India relations, noting that it has led to positive changes in mutual perceptions and maintained peace and tranquility in the border areas. And given the current volatile international situation, both countries face common challenges and need to enhance understanding, deepen trust, and strengthen cooperation. And this is vital for the welfare of the two countries' peoples, and for world peace as well as development. And also India, he says, is willing to maintain communication with China to create favorable conditions for the final resolution of the boundary issue. And both sides exchanged views also on early harvest in the boundary negotiations, and reiterated their commitment to fully utilize this special representative mechanism. And it was agreed by both sides that the 25th round of special representative talks will be held in China next year. So in summary, this meeting is of great significance as it further promotes communication and understanding between the two sides on bilateral relations. And
yes, let me bring in Ambassador Mohan Kumar. Ambassador, would you look at it as a tactical move forward, given the Trump tariff tyranny, or a reset, as some would want us to believe?
Thank you very much for having me. I certainly hope it is not a tactical thing, at least from India's perspective, because that is precisely the wrong thing to do, in my view. Just because we have a few headwinds in our relationship with the United States, I don't think we should be doing things with China on that basis. I believe the India-China relationship stands on its own merit. It is a neighbor. It is a strategic partnership. And I think for me, it is better not to view the relationship in terms of a zero-sum game where we have some trouble with the United States and therefore you ipso facto come to the conclusion that you need to improve your ties with China. My yardstick for improvement, Gaurav, would be that we need two things which we need to convey to the Chinese. I think I agree with the Chinese correspondent that communication is good, understanding is good, But two things have to happen. One,
Yes.
there is temporary peace at the border, but permanent peace eludes us because 50 to 60,000 troops are in eyeball to eyeball
Absolutely.
confrontation. So de-escalation has to happen on a priority basis. Second, we need to convince China that a multipolar Asia is something that they will buy into, because that has implications for India's foreign policy in South Asia. So, all in all, I would agree with the External Affairs Minister who believes this relationship should be based on three mutuals, that is, sensitivity, respect, and interest, and that we should really be trying to ensure that competition does not become conflict and
Okay.
differences don't become disputes. So, all
Fair
in
enough.
all, I
Let me bring
believe
in.
this is a
Let me
step in the
bring in.
right direction.
It's a step in the right direction, you say. Professor Kondapalli, Wang Yi said that the setbacks India and China experienced in the past few years were not in the interest of the people of the two countries. Now, are these just words, or has China also realized that tension at the borders has not helped either China or India? But as Ambassador Mohan Kumar points out, there are steps that China must take, and especially the 50,000 odd soldiers on both sides. Do they need to de-escalate for us to know that it's not just words, there is action on the Chinese side, not just disengagement?
We don't know what the Chinese are going to do next, but we need to watch those steps. I think, as Ambassador Mohan Kumar mentioned, we have had disengagement and patrolling and grazing by October 2024, but we have not had so far de-escalation and de-induction of troops on the border. This is a major concern. Of course, there is, as you mentioned, Gaurav, there is peace and tranquility, but peace and tranquility in the background of deployment of troops, but most important, very offensive equipment, military equipment, like tanks, light tanks, the multiple rocket launchers, drones, and other things. So we need to actually see what will be the progress in this direction. Remember, Dr. Jaishankar mentioned on June 17, 2020, that unless until peace and tranquility prevails on the border, there is no bilateral relation between the two sides. So we need to see on this. The reason why I'm suggesting is, so far there is no discussion on the resumption of the 30 different types of dialogues between the two sides, including media to media exchanges, think tank to think tank, the strategic dialogue between the foreign ministries, the annual defense dialogue between the defense ministries, the youth exchanges, the so many 30 of these dialogues are there. There is no discussion so far on
No,
these,
and
despite
India's steps throughout, Professor Jacob. We covered the Chinese president coming to Gujarat in 2014. We covered what happened at Wuhan and then Mahabalipuram, and then we covered Galwan, and I was also covering Kazan in 2024. My question is, when we've seen so many ups and downs in this relationship, India has always tried to improve relations with China. It's China, that we need to know whether we can trust. How do you look at these developments, especially in the light of what happened with Chinese assistance to Pakistan during Operation Sindoor?
So I think, as everyone has mentioned, there's better communication now, and I think both sides understand each other. But communication and understanding does not necessarily mean that there is agreement on how the relationship needs to go forward. As Professor Kondapalli mentioned, a whole series of previous engagements are not yet back on track. And the reason that they are not back on track is precisely because there is still a great degree of distrust that exists in the relationship. I don't see that. I mean, frankly, given that the two sides are talking to each other, and the MEA statement says that they did discuss terrorism, they did discuss the river water, the dam issue, and so on. So clearly, communication is happening. but that is not quite enough. We have quite a distance to go before both sides begin to get to the next level. I mean, you mentioned Operation Sindoor. I mean, Foreign Minister Wang is actually traveling from Delhi to Kabul for a
Yes.
tripartite with the Pakistani and Afghan foreign minister, and then he's headed to Islamabad. So I think in that sense, that gives you an idea of where China sees India in this. And frankly, we cannot have a relationship where China doesn't understand the importance of India. I mean, these words are all very well, but these words need to be matched by actions as well.
I will let that be the last word on this part of the show. I'm so sorry we couldn't have a longer discussion given that emergency in Mumbai. But over the next several days, I hope to have all of you back on India First to talk more about India-China relations and how it's being taken forward. I want to thank our guests from China and all of our professors and ambassadors joining me on this show. It's not just sweet words, it's action that follows, especially at the line of actual control, and whether there is a change, if at all, in the overall India-China relations and China's attitude towards Pakistan, their all-weather friend. Many aspects that we'll be tracking over the next several days and weeks.